We now know the two different modes, trunk and access mode. If you launch the switch port mode command followed by a question mark, you will notice that there is another mode, which is called dynamic. And to go further than dynamic, we see that we have the choice between auto or desirable. The configuration of a trunk can become very tiring if one has several interswitch links in its enterprise. That is why Cisco has created a protocol that automatically mounts a trunk between two switches. This is the DTP protocol. As this is a Cisco proprietary protocol, it means it only works between Cisco switches. The principle is quite simple. When a port goes up, DTP ads are sent. If the port is connected to another switch, then the switch will receive the DTP ad and respond to it. The trunk will be activated on both sides. And if the port is connected to a PC, well, as the PC does not understand the protocol, it will not respond. The trunk will therefore not be activated, and the port will remain in access mode. A physical port of a switch may have several states or modes regarding DTP. These states are especially important to know because, unfortunately, according to the model of the switch, the default state is not the same. In desirable dynamic mode, the switch announces its desire to go into trunk. It is said that it is ready to negotiate. In dynamic auto mode, the switch awaits a solicitation from the neighbor at the other end. That is, it does not send queries, but responds to those on the other side. In trunk mode, the switch automatically mounts into trunk and informs the neighbor opposite. In the non-negotiate mode, it also climbs into trunk but does not inform its neighbor. And the access mode deactivates the trunk and warns the neighbor. Depending on the mode chosen, i.e. the port wants to go up in trunk, or the port is necessary to climb in trunk, or it forbids climbing trunk. It is therefore possible to find different combinations between two switches. Here is a table which shows in which mode the port rises, depending on the configuration of the two ends. The boxes nicknamed limited correspond to an incoherent configuration, because from one side we configure in trunk, and on the other we force in access. All of these combinations are to be known for the CCNA. For security reasons, it is best to set up even the switch ports, and not use dynamic mode, because otherwise anyone can come and connect with a laptop, and launch the GNS3 simulator to form a trunk, and thus have access to all VLANs. Therefore, if you want a port to be used only in access mode, it is better to make it a switch port mode access, followed by a switch port non-negotiate. And if you want a port to go up in trunk, it will be a switch port mode trunk, followed by a switch port non-negotiate. For security reasons, it is advisable to disable trading on switches, and to configure either port mode. One last thing to see on the security side concerns the native VLAN. It is also advisable to change it. For example, if you want the native VLAN of switches A and B to be VLAN 50 instead of the default 1, you will have to run the switch port trunk native VLAN 50 command on the interfaces of the trunk link. For two PCs that belong to different VLANs to communicate with each other, a router will have to be added to the topology. In the example, we have PC A and B that are in different VLANs, and each of the VLAN belong to a different subnet. If the PC A, which is in the VLAN 10, wants to communicate with the PCB of the VLAN 20, then it will have to route both networks. That is, traffic will go from PC A to router and router to PCB. This procedure is called router on a stick. Today they sell 3-layer switches. That is, in addition to switching packages, they can also route them. In this way, it is possible to do without a router.